This is my ranking of the Alien films from worst to best. I'm including the AVP films, so that's 9 films in total. Let's get into it. Number 9 is Alien Resurrection. I think this film is kind of an abomination. I liked it originally upon its release, but it's one of those movies that the more I watch it, the more flaws I see in it and the worse it gets over time. The aliens themselves are just dripping with snot. There's really pathetic things in the script, like a guy pulling the back of his own brain out and looking at it. It's like, for comedy reasons, I guess. I don't know. It looks stupid to me. Then you've got a final act that just descends into this miserable kind of excuse for... I don't know what it is, to be honest. It's alien-human hybrid thing that just looks ridiculous. I think they try to humanise it, they try to make us sympathise it, but the puppetry work just looks pathetic, looks sad, and as a result it becomes funny rather than endearing or scary in any way. So yeah, not a good film. Number 8 is AVP, the first of the Alien vs Predator films. I have fun with this. It's kind of schlocky, it's kind of video gamey. It's about as much as you can expect from it. You know, the aliens and the predators have a smackdown, which I guess is what you come into this film for. That's fine. The story built around it is okay. It's the idea for it. It's just, yeah, all right, whatever. It's Paul W.S. Anderson. He never makes anything more than just a moderately decent film. And this is a moderately decent film with some fairly decent action, but terrible dialogue and really one-note characters. Number 7 is AVP Requiem. This is the one that tends to sit on the bottom for most people. It gets a bit of a bad rap, mostly because it's so dark and you can't see a lot of what's going on. But if I watch it with the lights out in the living room, I can see enough. And I like the setting. I like that it's a lot more down to earth. I like that it's in an environment a little bit more akin to like the first Predator film. You know, it's very kind of urban-y but jungly at the same time. It's just, yeah, it's just... I like the story, the characters. I know people don't come to these films for the characters, you know, AVP. I want to see aliens smacking down with predators. It's like, well, that's great, but you do need that human element, and I just think that this does a better job than the first one with that human element. The first AVP, that is, not the first Alien. Yeah, it does a better job in that regard, and for that reason, I just kind of prefer it. There's not much between them. They're both pretty lame films, to be honest, but if I'm going to watch one over the other, I watch Requiem over the first AVP. That's just me. Number 6 is Alien 3. Now, I only really watch the assembly cut these days. I don't watch the theatrical cut. I think the assembly cut, while not being anywhere near close to being a perfect film, it's still quite an interesting film. It's got a lot of themes and ideas in there that are being explored in terms of faith and religion and punishment and sin. You know, is this beast sent from God to punish these people on this planet for having, you know, not followed their religious ways to the letter and all that kind of stuff? And it's got, you know, like a nice kind of Christ-like allegory in the shape of Ripley and what she does in terms to save not just the planet but anyone off the planet with her final actions. So there's some good stuff in there. The thing that lets it down obviously is the way in which they dispense with Newt and Hicks. That's almost unforgivable, but once you accept that and you say, okay, they're out of the picture, where can we go from here? We actually get what is a fairly interesting story. Not where I would have gone personally, but it's watchable. It's got some good moments. Fincher's direction is clearly very good. It's just that it's let down a bit by some shoddy effects work, some really dodgy kind of green screen compositing and stuff. And I'm just like, oh, okay. The effects in the first two look better, even though they were like 15 years like prior to this. So yeah, it's a mixed bag, is Alien 3, but it's got enough in there of interest to keep it above the others. Number 5 is Prometheus, and this sees Ridley Scott returning to the fold, kind of jumping way before Alien, giving us like, oh, where did they come from kind of thing, although not actually getting there full on. It's a bit like, okay, where are you going with this exactly? So it's interesting. I like the allusions to Lawrence of Arabia in this character of David and his delusions of grandeur. His you know, this idea, this seed taking shape in his mind of him kind of wanting to oust his creator. Basically, this is man stealing thunder from the gods. This is man essentially trying to wipe out God and replace him. This is the Garden of Eden, you know, this is the tree of knowledge. I can usurp my creator, and that's what we get in David, and he's a really interesting character. Probably for me the most interesting character in the entire franchise. I really like David. I really like Michael Fassbender's performance as David. So yeah, that's of great interest to me. I like that Ridley Scott is exploring more the notion of AI. I think a lot of people don't seem to realise that was one of his primary concerns in the original film. When you look at the character of Ash and where he goes, what he's all about, he's really the villain of the piece in many respects in that first Alien film. I like that deeper dive into AI. I think there are a few kind of tropes of the horror genre in general that make their way into Prometheus that kind of drag it down a little bit. You know, the one-note characters. You've got this team of people that they go to the planet to do this mission, and you're kind of left wondering, really? These are the best you could find? It's like there's one guy who's just like got an absolute attitude problem. He's just raw with everyone. It's like, okay, people make silly choices. Like, would you really? Would you really go touching that? Other than that, there's some really great scares. There's some really great creature designs, and the lore is expanded in a really interesting enough way to make me crave a sequel. Number 4 is Alien Romulus. This is essentially a greatest hits of the whole Alien franchise. It takes some of the bits that didn't work in some films and makes them work in this one. It takes some of the bits that really did work in some films and makes them not quite work in this one. But above all, this is just a straight-laced, nuts and bolts, stick people on a ship with the alien problem and let's see what happens. So it gets back to basics. It doesn't expand the lore in any truly meaningful way, but it is a very good theme park ride. Very good. I don't mean that in a derogatory term. I mean, like, you know, you go to this kind of film, you go to like a horror film like this, and you want to be taken on a ride. You want to like jump, you want to be scared, you want to be white knuckling it, and that's kind of what you get with this film. So in that regard, it does what it set out to do. Number 3 for me is Alien Covenant. This is a film that I think people either love or hate. It got majorly crapped on when it came out. It still does. Alien Covenant, I think it's the most underrated in the franchise. Do some characters make some silly choices? Yeah, but they do in all the films practically. You know, it's like, it's part and parcel of this kind of movie. But I really love the exploration of this character of David. I think one of the big kind of criticisms for a lot of people was that there ain't enough alien, there's too much of David, the alien stuff just feels tacked on at the end. I don't feel that way personally. I feel it's a natural progression of how we get from what we have in the aliens at the beginning of this movie to where it goes at the end. But I think primarily this film is focused on David, on the AI, on the fact that the biggest thing that is threatening mankind possibly at the moment is technology, is the fact that the things we create are going to outlive us, are going to destroy us. And yeah, there's a really great kind of commentary, Nietzschean commentary there about mankind essentially wanting to play God, be God, usurp God, and where that's going to lead us, which is not a good place. So yeah, I think the film does a really good job of exploring all that. I think it's got some cracking scares in it, some real good thrills, some spine-tingling stuff, some disgusting kind of body horror stuff. It's a great alien movie. I really love it. I don't understand the hate. It's not perfect, but it's damn near close for me. Number 2 is the one that started it all. It's Ridley Scott's Alien. It's not a right lot I can say that hasn't been said so many times. I've reviewed this film on my channel. It's an absolute classic for good reason. It's a slow burn, kind of tension-filled horror in space that has characters that feel very real, very down to earth, primarily because of the way in which Ridley Scott shoots their interactions. It all feels very like documentary in many respects in some ways, like we're just peering in on them around the dinner table. Yeah, really well drawn out characters. Great central character in Ripley, who's, yeah, just obviously becomes an iconic character for good reason, which is that she wasn't written as a woman, she was just written as a character. She just the character just happened to be cast with Sigourney Weaver. So yeah, brilliant movie. Can't fault it. It's great. For modern audiences, the pacing might be a bit too slow, but I think it just creates a sense of dread throughout that is, yeah, it's a classic. It's an absolute classic. But of course, number one for me is Aliens. You're either an Alien guy or an Aliens guy. I think obviously you can be both. I think most people can admit that both films are 5-star movies. But the thing that determines which one is for you is, are you the slow burn horror thriller type, or are you the all-out action kind of war type? And for me, I'm the all-out action kind of war type. So yeah, for me, Aliens clinches it. Just a brilliant film about motherhood. Yeah, like who'd have thought that you could make a film about motherhood of all themes within this big action kind of horror fest? Yeah, with full of set pieces and stuff. That's the genius of Cameron. So props to him. Does a bang up job. This is a film for the ages, and it's actually in my top 10 movies of all time. So yeah, Aliens, absolute masterpiece. Brilliant action. Brilliant performances across the board. All the roster of characters in this are great and memorable, and come out with dialogue that is very quotable, but also meaningful. I think that's partly why a lot of the dialogue is quotable, because it's meaningful to those particular characters. So yeah, absolute masterpiece. That is my ranking of the Alien franchise. But how would you rank them? Leave your ranking down below. Thank you for watching this video, and until next time,